Okay, how's it going, everybody? So we're going to read some more Karl Marx. This is the Trent case. This is in his collection of press releases, of articles written about the Civil War in the United States, or written, during the Civil War, that were distributed through the New York Tribune, which was the most distributed newspaper in the United States at that time. So we're going to go ahead and read this part here. This is called the Trent case. This was released in 1861. Let's go ahead and see what he says here. Let's see, November 28, 1861. The conflict of the English mail ship Trent with the North American warship San Jacinto in the narrow passage of the old Bahama Channel is the lion among the events of the day. In the afternoon of November 27th, the mail ship La Plata brought the news of the incident to Southampton, where the electric telegraph at once flashed it to all parts of Great Britain. The same evening, the London Stock Exchange was the stage of stormy scenes similar to those at the time of the announcement of the Italian War. Quotations for government stock sank 0.75 to 1%. The wildest rumors circulated in London. The American ambassador, Adams, was said to have been given his passport, an embargo to have been imposed on all American ships in the Thames, etc. At the same time, a protest meeting of merchants was held at the Stock Exchange in Liverpool to demand measures from the British government for the satisfaction of the violated honor of the British flag. Every sound-minded Englishman went to bed with the conviction that he would go to sleep in a state of peace but wake up in a state of war. Nevertheless, the fact is well nigh categorically established that the conflict between the Trent and the San Jacinto brings no war in its train. The semi-official press, the Times, and the Morning Post strikes a peaceful note and pours judicially cool deductions on the flickerings of passion. Papers like the Daily Telegraph, which at the famous mot d'ordre roar for the British lion, are true models of moderation. Only the Tory opposition press, the Morning Herald, and the Standard hits out. These facts force every expert to conclude that the ministry has already decided not to make a casus belli out of the untoward event. It must be added that the event, if not the details of its enactment, was anticipated. On October 12th, Messrs. Slidell, Confederacy emissary to France, and Mason, Confederacy emissary to England, together with their secretaries, Eustis and McFarland, had run the blockade of Charleston on the steamship Theodora and sailed for Havana, there to seek the opportunity of a passage under the British flag. In England, their arrival was expected daily. North American warships had set out from Liverpool to intercept the gentlemen with their dispatches on this side of the Atlantic Ocean. The British ministry had already submitted one question: whether the North Americans were entitled to take such a step to its official jurisconsults for their opinion. Their answer is said to have been in the affirmative. The legal question turns in a narrow circle. Since the foundation of the United States, North America had adopted British maritime law in all its rigor. A major principle of this maritime law is that all neutral merchantmen are subject to search by the belligerent parties. Quote, "This right," end quote, said Lord Stowell, in a judgment which has become famous, quote, "offers the sole security that no contraband is carried on neutral ships," end quote. The greatest American authority, Kent, states in the same sense, quote, "The right of self-preservation gives belligerent nations this right. The doctrine of the British Admiralty on the right of visitation and search has been recognized in its fullest extent by the courts of justice in our country," end quote. It was not opposition to the right of search, as it sometimes erroneously suggested, that brought about the Anglo-American War of 1812 to 1814. Rather, America declared war because England unlawfully presumed to search even American warships, on the pretext of catching deserters from the British Navy. The San Jacinto, therefore, had the right to search the Trent and to confiscate any contraband stowed aboard her. That dispatches in the possession of Mason, Slidell, and Company come under the category of contraband, even the Times, the Morning Post, etc., admit. There remains the question whether Messrs. Mason, Slidell, and Company were themselves contraband and might consequently be confiscated. The point is a ticklish one, and differences of opinion prevail among the doctors of law. Pratt, the most distinguished British authority on, quote, contraband, end quote, in the section of quasi-contraband dispatches passengers specifically refers to, quote, communication of information and orders from a belligerent government to its officers abroad, or the conveyance of military passengers, end quote. Messrs. Mason and Slidell, if not officers, were just as little ambassadors, since their governments are recognized neither by Britain nor by France. What are they then? In justification of the very broad conceptions of contraband asserted by Britain in the Anglo-French Wars, Jefferson already remarks in his memoirs that contraband, by its nature, precludes any exhaustive definition and necessarily leaves great scope for arbitrariness. In any event, however, one sees that from the standpoint of English law, the legal question dwindles to a Duns Scotus controversy, the explosive force of which will not go beyond exchange of diplomatic notes. The political aspect of the North American procedure was estimated quite correctly by The Times in these words, quote, even Mr. Seward himself must know that the voices of the Southern commissioners, sounding from them their captivity, are 1,000 times more eloquent in London and in Paris than they would have been if they had been heard in St. James and the Tuileries, unquote. And is not the Confederacy already represented in London by Messrs. Yancey and Mann? We regard this latest operation of Mr. Seward as a characteristic act of tactlessness, by self-conscious weakness, simulating strength. If the naval incident hastens Seward's removal from the Washington cabinet, the United States will have no reason to record it as an, quote, untoward event, end quote, in the annals of its Civil War. Okay, yes, that was the Trent case by Karl Marx, written in 1861. Well, thank y'all for tuning in. You know, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, Medium, all of these are Marxist. Hit me up there. Y'all have a great day, and Dodada Goy.